everybody, I finally got around to seeing Hacksaw Ridge. Whew! I was really excited to see this film come out, in part because I was really desperately curious about how the faith of Das would be portrayed. Click here for why I even care. And also because I've liked all of Mel Gibson's movies. Braveheart, Passion of the Christ, the lesser but still kind of amazing Apocalypto. They're all movies that are just so different from the normal movie theater fare. I mean, 2 of those movies are foreign language films, and all of them are period pieces. I mean, it's just really cool. So Hacksaw Ridge came out almost 2 weeks ago, but in case you're like me and you just haven't gotten around to check it out, you should do that. Go check it out. It is absolutely worth your time. All right, let's get into it. Desmond's faith is the cornerstone of this film, and Gibson gives us at least 2 moments that kind of explore Desmond's objection to violence. I'm only gonna talk about the first one, which hits within 10 minutes of the film starting, and Desmond and his brother are fighting as children. Their alcoholic father watches them passively. He's not really interested in getting involved at all, and it's almost funny. But then out of nowhere, Desmond picks up a brick and cracks his brother in the head with it. In the theater I was watching this in, there were audible gasps. I mean, you just don't even see it coming, which is kind of a staple for the violence in this film. Now, in the wake of this, Desmond realizes the fragility of life and how his actions can have such massive consequences. And admittedly, it feels a little heavy-handed when he's staring at a picture of Cain and Abel while he realizes this, but the moment is still an effective one, and it helps us understand his objection to killing. The cast for this film is great, and for me, it was seeing actors in these new kind of roles that was really exciting. I mean, Andrew Garfield doesn't have a ton of work under his belt yet, but after seeing The Social Network and the Amazing Spider-Man movies, the role of Desmond Doss was a completely new thing for me. Andrew Garfield plays him as a likable and kind of little dopey guy in the early parts of the film, and it makes him really charming, and you're just rooting for him the whole time. But Garfield is also great when Desmond is terrified, stressed, even contemplative. Every moment and emotion is completely believable. Other unsuspected performances came from Hugo Weaving and Vince Vaughn, 2 guys who have their own completely different typecasted sort of career. To see Weaving outside of a sci-fi fantasy film was awesome, and his intensity as Desmond's alcoholic father, it's scary and it's also heartbreaking. Vince Vaughn is a trickier sell for me. I mean, he did really well as Desmond's drill sergeant, and he brought a lot of the humor to that middle part of the movie, but his past roles are really hard to get through. Remember, this is the guy from Dodgeball and Old School, and to set that guy in a drama, it's a hard sell. I mean, it was awesome to see him in something different, and it mostly worked, but it's really hard to just forget about all that other stuff that he's done. Okay, finally, let's talk about the violence. If you've seen Gibson's other films, it won't be any surprise to you at all that Gibson's violence is both harsh and bloody. And you'll get a small dose of that at the very beginning of the film as it opens up in the middle of a battle scene, but you almost forget about it by the time Desmond arrives back on Okinawa for the final battles of the movie. Now, from the moment that Hacksaw Ridge came out, people have been comparing the battle scenes to those of Saving Private Ryan. And I agree that these moments of unflinching brutality do share some of the same qualities. The first day of battle in Hacksaw Ridge has no music at all, just like the D-Day invasion in Saving Private Ryan. So we're left with the noise of war. It's all booming explosions and roaring flamethrowers and coughing rifles and just a lot of screaming soldiers. And it's this non-stop soundscape that adds to the haunting visuals, because the visuals are what sets this apart from Saving Private Ryan. In Spielberg's film, the visuals are intense, they're shocking, but they're also sad. And in Gibson's film, that sadness is kind of swapped out for horror. So before the final battles, we're shown bodies on the battlefield, decomposing, maggot covered, and there's rats gnawing on the dead flesh. And then when soldiers do die, the bullets don't just go through them. The men are thrown to the ground with a force that you can almost feel like you've been hit too. Blood splashes, limbs fly. There's something just more grotesque about Gibson's war than Spielberg's. They're both cinematic, but Gibson's way of shooting it seems to be a little bit more theatrical, if that makes any sense. What I think I like most about Hacksaw Ridge was the reminder of a really, really important question. What should we do when we see a need for justice, but we disagree on how the fight is being fought? Desmond has to explain several times that he will not carry a gun into battle, and he will not take the life of another person. He suffers for this conviction, but he refuses to leave the fight to other people. So he has to constantly explain to people that staying out of the fight is just something that he can't live with at all. This is such an important idea for our times because causes abound, but the way we fight can be dirty and hateful and disgraceful. And in those fights, it's easy to fight alongside the trolls and the other rage monsters, and it's an obvious challenge to fight the fight in a civil way, especially when everybody else is blowing everyone to smithereens with their word. This has never been more true than in the weeks following the election, and I think with a film like Hacksaw Ridge, we can see the kind of fight many of us have to face. Like, to enter battle with issues like poverty, race, and women's rights is to enter a battlefield where there are horrors to behold. But this film gives us a character, Desmond Doss, that reminds us that maybe our best choice that we can possibly make in these fights is not to just go attack people and tear them down, but maybe, just maybe, it's more beneficial to build people up and to save them. Thanks for watching. They said Seventh-day Adventist, not Seventh-day Adventist. Do you know how happy that makes me? I mean, I know that's a really simple thing, but you have no idea. Everyone that's not an Adventist that I've ever met always says Seventh-day Adventist. I don't get it. You have an Advent, just add ist to the end of it. Adventist. You don't say Catholic, you say Catholic. You don't say Baptist, you say Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, Adventist. Whatever.